Hi, I'm odeean. Today I'm having a look at TFC Toys Uranos Combiner F-15 Eagle. Just like the other members of Uranos, the box has really high quality artwork on the front. Other than that, it's a pretty ordinary box, pretty standard kind of card with just a photo of the different modes on the back. F-15 Eagle is TFC's version of the G1 Transformers Arielbot. AirRaid is the leg of Superion, the combining robot. They've stuck pretty close to model. He looks really good in both modes, and when you put it side by side, the G1, which I don't have with me at the moment, he is definitely who he is supposed to be. If anything is lacking, all I would say is that I don't feel that the head is enough like who it's supposed to look like, but TFC typically have been appear to have been steering clear of doing straight out homages in the face sculpt. So I'm still hoping that somewhere down the line we can buy some replacement heads from somebody. I was hoping that with Hurcules robots, but that never happened. But who knows? This Autobot symbol on the front here didn't come with the toy, and I'm not sure if I'm really happy with the placement of it. I just put this on from a sticker sheet that I had. But when you get to vehicle mode, I will show the stickers I put on the wings, and I am really happy with how they turned out. But TFC, they just didn't really include a specially made blank spot for a sticker in this case. The eye section here and these little bits on top of the forehead are light piping, and if you look at the back of the head here, you can see this whole crystalline section here, this transparent section, is where the light comes in. Now I don't have a light directly behind me here, but it is very vibrant when you get the light shining through it. I actually don't like it. It achieves light piping perfectly, better than any other light piping, but I think I've come to prefer painted eyes these days. So there's nothing stopping me from painting them if I wanted to, and it's probably better that TFC give us the choice for the light piping, but if I had it my way, I'd probably choose painted over light piping. And although those eyes aren't painted, there are a number of good paint apps on the figure. So you can see in these sections here, this yellow paint has been applied to the little intake-like vents at the front. Moving on to the side, we've got two colours of paint on the arm here. We've got a red and a silver, pretty neatly applied. The red is a little bit sloppy, but only at close inspection. From normal shelf distance, it's pretty neat. We've got sections of grey on the abdomen and torso. On the inner leg, we've got silver painted onto this black panel here. More red in the front. Some grey on the toes. Red and grey on the wings. And a little bit of yellow here and there, like in this missile pod. And I say missile pod, but I've had people point out to me with my last review of one of these aerial bots that it was a fuel tank. So I'm no plane expert, so before you go posting a comment, I don't know, is this a fuel tank? Is this a missile pod? It looks like a missile to me. One thing I want to mention is I'm reviewing this a bit late, and it might seem like I didn't like the figure that much, why I got him late perhaps. That's not the case. When I had paid for this, which was a couple of months before it even came out, I opted to have it the shipping bundled with Toy World Aurora, and because Aurora was really significantly delayed at some Asian retailers, I couldn't get this guy until Aurora came out. So that's the reason this guy's late, and I actually like this really a lot. So the lateness is not from lack of caring for the product. There's one kind of primary cool hidden feature in robot mode, and that's these vents here. So you can pull these panels down to reveal a little bit of missile spam, and it's very satisfyingly molded and painted. And this is where you get your money's worth in third party, because if this was an official product these days, I doubt we'd get paint on that little bit of molded detail, and it does look really nice, although it is a bit weird for this bottom section to be shooting up. It would have felt better if the panel had bent upwards, that way you could have all the dots facing forward. But, you know, I can't complain, it does look pretty fantastic. the missile slash fuel pod can be used as a gun, but I found that it is really a bad fit for the hand. So you can see it's on a movable peg, which creates its own problems. But even assuming you can get that rigid, it doesn't want to go in the hand very easily. Once you sort of force it past a certain point, it does securely bond, but then you end up with this weird situation where the angles look wrong. So maybe it's just my one, the molding is not so good, but if I put it into this straight position, it feels like it's going to force itself out and kind of flick loose. It's just slightly bulbous on the bottom edge compared to the top edge. And again, it might be just a QC issue with my one, not the toy in general. The figure is pretty poseable. I mean, I'm not going to go through every joint. It's the kind of standard TFC treatment. But one thing I do want to point out is the way that this nozzle, the jet nozzle, transforms. It gives you the flexibility to angle it in a position like this. So what that means is that you can choose to sit his feet at all different kinds of angles, and you can adjust this nozzle to take the weight so that it doesn't fall backwards. It's pretty useful and kind of a big improvement on a lot of jet transformers that I've had in the past. If there's any real downside to the robot mode, it's this at the back. So perhaps I'm just doing it wrong, but as far as I can figure out, it doesn't kind of lock in. It's got this rocking to it. I've tried to figure out is there a way to snap it in, but it doesn't seem to be, and I would prefer it if that wasn't a bit loose. It kind of bothers me that it can move like that, but you know, that's a minor quibble. It is at the back and it's not falling off or anything, it's just movable. Okay, let's have a bit of a look at some comparisons. So here is his brother, fellow Arielbot, F4 Phantom, and they're pretty much the same size, and they share a lot of design cues with each other. They really look like part of a team, and that's one of TFC's really strong points. When they do a bunch of robots, they look like they go together. It was like that with Hurcules, and it is really the same story with Uranos. I'm very satisfied with those two. I can't wait to get the other two. Here's F-15 Eagle with one of my favourite members of Hurcules, Mad Blender. So you can see they're pretty much the same size, although Mad Blender has, you know, a little bit more bulk because of the weapons, but in reality the actual robots are not significantly different. It's not the same with all the Hurcules members, but with Mad Blender definitely not that much out of scale with each other. Here he is with Masterpiece Buzzsaw. And by the way, Buzzsaw is my favourite Masterpiece tape. I really love Buzzsaw. But anyway, these guys, these are pretty well scaled as well. I could imagine them being in the show together. That looks pretty decent size. In fact, that is probably the main reason that I even buy into all TFC's combiners, because I really like this size. It's bigger than old style Deluxe, but a little bit smaller than a Voyager. It's a good size to collect. And finally, here he is with Aurora, who I mentioned earlier. I'm going to get to him a little bit later on in a different review, but Aurora is a pretty good transformer as well. And I'm satisfied that these guys could be in the same line. I mean, a jet would be bigger than a car, and I know it would be a lot bigger, but just a little bit of difference here, it lets it fit. As far as my imagination goes, it lets it fit in my little shelf universe. Let's get to the transformation. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is just straighten off various pieces like this. I'm going to bring these feet out, give it a bit of clearance, rotate it around, and then just pop it back up into the little divot there. Do the same on the other side. It's important to bring it down like that, because if you don't bring it down, it stresses the joint out when you do the rotation. Next, we want to grab these sections and then just fold them into that position so it kind of overlaps. If you want, you can bring the little wings out now, the tail fins out now at the back. Next, we want to turn the head around so that when it's in jet mode you don't see the face. I'm going to bring the legs together. They can just tab together like that. Next, we want to make sure that the shoulder and bicep and arm, all this section is straight. Do this with the arm to extend it. It doesn't matter that that little fist section is still popping out in the middle. Now's the time to unfold the wings, because you won't be able to do it once you collapse the legs. So just kind of straighten out the wings and then rotate them around like this. Do the same on both sides. The wings actually come off. This is kind of one of my annoyances. It's a pro and a con. It's good in the way because you can pull it off to make it easier, or you can swap them with other Transformers. And you know, G1 Decepticons, their wings came off as well. But I feel that in the long run it's going to get loose, and it was a kind of engineering shortcut. I would have preferred if they were properly attached. Now that the wings are pointing in the right direction, we can grab all this and collapse the legs in like this. Now just straighten off these wings. You'll see at the back there's a little tab and a little slot that just locks them into a final position. We can put the nozzles down like so and just cover them up with these little flaps. Then turning it back over, grab the arms at the shoulder and they just bend down to the sides. And there's a kind of slot and groove here, and if you just push it all together, it's supposed to lock in at the side. Sometimes it doesn't do a fantastic job of locking in, but there isn't much weight that it has to take. So although it's not perfect, it does the job of holding the arms in place most of the time. Next, we're going to get this section and just bring it forward. And you'll see that there's a spot where the head can actually go inside of. Then these intakes, they also bend forward and they have to be pulled over the rectangular section. It kind of makes a slight snap. And that's about it. Just a little bit of fiddling with the different panels to get it all looking good. And that's our jet mode. Jet mode is pretty fantastic. I have nothing bad to say about this. It's really, really nice, and it makes you ask the question, why is it that TFC can make a Transformer of good size that is awesome in jet and robot mode, and it seems like Hasbro Transformers have never been able to get a jet which looks as good in both modes. It's long overdue that we have a classics update of Starscream, but we don't seem to be getting it. I mean, the Fall of Cybertron Starscream, that I have that and it's half decent, but it is definitely not a classics update, and it almost seems that Hasbro have given up on it. I mean, admittedly, they've produced Masterpiece, which is the new Starscream, is pretty awesome in Masterpiece. I got the Thundercracker mold of it. But I would like to see a official deluxe Transformer that does something very similar to this. As I mentioned earlier, I applied these stickers on the wings, and I think that that looks exactly right. I had this toy as a kid, the G1 Transformer of AirRaid, and I mean, from my memory, it had Autobot symbols on the wings like that. Maybe I just stuck them there. I don't know, but definitely my one at least had those stickers. So when I look at this, it really has some nostalgia for me. It looks like the toy I used to play with, except like 10 times better. And we've got different numbers and what have you here. And obviously this is supposed to be giving the idea of AirRaid without actually writing AirRaid on the tail. Pretty nice. Again, here go the missiles / fuel pods. Now he does have some landing gear, so underneath it's really easy to grab a hold of too. It's got a nice little bump for your fingers to grab. That can come out like this, and then at the back these bend down like this. And one thing I'll say is they are real working landing gear, none of this fake nubs that drag along the ground. He has actual functional, good height, nice transformation landing gear, so pulled off really, really well. Another very satisfying element is the cockpit. You can see that it's a nice tinted yellow plastic with really well done paintwork on it, silver paint. But if you grab it and open it up, it actually has two little seats in there. That is so awesome. It works really well. It holds down well and it opens relatively simply. Nice feature. But that's not it. There is also a hidden feature in the jet mode. So the nose can split in half. I just cut my nails. It's a little bit hard for me to actually grab a hold of. And normally that's where the radar would be, but to me that doesn't look like a radar. It looks like almost like a kind of drill or a missile. I'm not sure. If I could focus on the damn thing. There we go. I'm sure if I was a kid I'd find that pretty impressive. I still like it as an adult, but you know, there's not that much I can really do with that. But it's probably something they didn't really have to do and just threw in for us, so it's well appreciated. If there's any downside to the jet mode, it's only this, that this tab here that holds the nose of the plane in isn't really that tough, and it can come untabbed quite easily, but that's no big deal. There is one more feature, and where have I put it? We get this unit here. Now, given that this is part of Superion, this is the foot of Superion. But with this little attachment on the top, it becomes a stand to display your jet. So I'm going to fold up this landing gear, and if we just rotate these around like this, you'll see that there's a little slot in there. And given a little bit of fiddling, there, what we've got is a very cool stand to display our jet on. Seeing how cool the stand is with F-15 Eagle, it makes me wish that F-4 Phantom could accommodate the stand, but sadly underneath there seems to be no easy way to attach that little yellow piece. And it's a pity because you know, for people who end up getting two sets of Uranos, it would be possible to pose all these limbs on their own stand if that was the case. But at this stage we've got no stand for these guys. A little bit disappointing. Just looking at these two, if I pull this off, side by side, these are a nice size next to each other. So definitely they look like they still fit in vehicle mode. Very fun to play with too. You can whoosh these around. Really nice jets. I haven't put any Autobot symbols on this guy yet. I've got to get around to that. Finally, F-15 Eagle turns into this leg mode, and you can see the foot just pegs in at the bottom here. And there we have the TFC version of Silverbolt, Blackbird, not being very black. I haven't reviewed that figure yet, and it's not as good as the limbs, but not terrible. There's the overall figure there. And you can see he's pretty impressive, and actually looks taller than Hurcules. I'll show in a minute a comparison next to Hurcules, but it's very impressive. In person, it's a huge figure. And I know there's hundreds of pages of people kind of dissecting every little bit of this on TFW, but it's impressive. No matter what you say, when you get it in hand, it is an impressive figure. Even though parts of it I wouldn't necessarily do, like the chest up here, I'm not happy with that. Silverbolt's got his problems. At the end of the day, having it in hand, it's a big, nice looking Transformer, and I can't really complain about that. It's pretty nice. So here's Uranos next to Hurcules, whom my Hurcules fully decked out with all different bits and pieces. And you can see it's just marginally taller. And I don't know if that's because my Hurcules has got a little bit poor posture because of floppy joints in the knees down here, or if it's maybe some mistake that I've made in transforming this area here. But he does look a little bit taller. which was surprising. I didn't expect that to be the case. One final detail of transformation which seems so well planned out is this seeker mode. So you could argue that the bits and pieces just happened to fall this way. These vents did need to move to accommodate the leg mode in Uranos mode, but it's so perfectly seeker-like that I have to believe that TFC did this on purpose, and I'm just praying that we get more versions of this down the track with Starscream or Thundercracker heads and what have you, even cone heads. I don't know how they could pull that off, but it's like, when you look at it like this, it's really a perfect seeker toy. My final thoughts on F-15 Eagle. I like it. It's a little bit steep. I know BBTS sell it for about $100. I paid, I don't know, I think it was $80 something for it from Chumungmung plus shipping, so it kind of works out about the same. I don't know. I choose Chumungmung normally when I want to get something quicker because I don't want to use my pile of loot, but in this situation, as I mentioned earlier, it didn't work out that way. I definitely am happy to have bought it, and I do think that it's worth it. I'm so tempted, I was so tempted at the beginning to wait for a cheaper run of these guys, because with Hurcules I had bought 2 lots of Hurcules when they came out, as they came out new, and I kind of regretted that because the price did go down quite a bit later on. But there's no guarantee that that will happen, so I think prudence has made me just jump on the bandwagon now, and I'm not regretting it. It's really fun. One thing I find a little bit hard to understand with TFC is how they can be so G1 focused with what they're doing. You know, combiners, Arielbots, Constructicons, but still just stray that little bit that kind of wrecks it for me. So with this figure, this is so close to perfect. I'm really happy with it, but with this one it's the face. But with the overall Uranos figure, the Blackbird component it's the odd man out, and I'll talk about that more in depth when I get to my Blackbird review. But if you're just looking at standalone figures, this F-15 Eagle is almost a perfect air raid, and I'm really happy with it. I can highly recommend it. I know it's not for everyone, because for what you get, $100 is a little bit too much money, I think, but it is fun and worth getting if you've got the money to spend on it. So anyway, that's my video review for TFC Toys Uranos F-15 Eagle, aka Air Raid from Superion. I'm Odeean, and thanks for watching.